welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we are going to tell you about a new Buddhist center that has opened in Hampton. My guest is Danny Hall. Welcome.
Hi, Robin. Thank you for having me.
Now, I should, a lot of people aren't terribly familiar with Buddhism, so we're going to start there and talk about, if that's okay,
Sure.
Buddhism in general, belief systems, and then particularly the chapter that you represent. Mm-hmm. Buddhism is one of the world's old religions, but a lot of people aren't familiar with it because a lot of the practitioners tend to be Asian. It's not that new to this country, and it's growing. So tell us a little bit about the basic tenets.
Well, Buddhism is a religion that respects the dignity of all life. There are many iterations of Buddhism. Some Buddhist communities engage in meditative practices, some in visualization practices, some in mantra recitation practices. The Soka Gakkai International USA Buddhist community that we're a part of practices Nichiren Buddhism, and we have a mantra recitation practice. We chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, which is the title of the Lotus Sutra, which is a teaching in Buddhism that emphasizes the absolute equality of all people, and that all people, just as they are, have the qualities of a Buddha within them, and they can manifest them in the form of greater compassion, wisdom, and courage through Buddhist practice.
And so the meditation, which, as you said, can be very different. Some people meditate silently or chant. It is to focus or...
So some people might think of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo as a type of oral meditation. Some have called it a mantra samadhi practice, perhaps. But ultimately, the purpose of Buddhist practice is to connect with this idea of dharma or mystic law. Buddhism views that there is an underlying principle to all phenomena in the universe, and by connecting with it, we can manifest these inherent potentialities that we have to live more fully and more powerfully and become happier as human beings.
One of the concepts that came from Buddhism and may be interpreted differently in the United States, but has entered this real popular culture thing, is the concept of karma. How does that relate?
So one way to think about karma is it's the way that life is coming at you. It's the way we sort of experience our respective lives. Technically, karma is the accumulation of all of the thoughts and words and actions that we've ever made, that these sort of feed into a process of creating the circumstances of our present existence, and that we're constantly responding to that. Buddhism in our community, which is Nichiren Buddhism based on the Lotus Sutra, teaches that we're not shackled to a certain destiny, however. It teaches that we have agency. We have the ability to change the way we think, the way we speak, the actions that we take. We can constantly make newer and better causes in the present moment. So in one way, you might think that if you want to understand why we have the circumstances we have in our lives right now, you simply need to look at the causes that we've made in the past. And if you want to know what your life is going to be like in the future, you just need to look at the causes you're making in the present moment. And our Buddhist practice is all about helping to cultivate ourselves, polish our lives so we can be our best selves and make the best actions, speak the best words, have the healthiest way of thinking about life and our circumstances in the present so we can change the trajectory of our lives moving forward for the better. The Lotus Sutra is actually an important symbol in Buddhism, and our Buddhist community is based on the teachings of the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra, or the lotus flower, I should say, will only grow in muddy swamps. If you put it in clean water, it actually doesn't flourish very well. But as it emerges from a muddy swamp, it emerges pristine. And as it does that, it simultaneously purifies the water that it's in. Now, scientists who have studied this have shown that the petals and the leaves of the lotus flower actually have this hydrophobic quality, so it prevents water and dirt from adhering to it. But for Buddhists, it's an important symbol. It's an example of how, even though we might have a lot of mud in our lives, the muck and the difficulties and the struggles and the challenges of our daily life existence. It is actually the opportunity for us to polish our lives and to grow into the people that we are capable of becoming. That our karma, how life is coming at us at this particular moment, is exactly what we need in a sense. It's our greatest teacher. And in a way, Buddhism allows you to perform an ongoing practice of mental jujitsu in a way, that you can take all of the difficulties and challenges in your life and you can transform them into opportunities for growth by looking at them as catalysts for further development. And as we do that, as we polish our lives and as we grow, we simultaneously purify the water that we're in, so to speak. So the idea is that there's no separation between ourselves and the environment in Buddhism. So as we are able to grow through our Buddhist practice, we believe that we simultaneously can have a positive effect on our surroundings, on our relationships with our friends, our families, our neighborhood, and indeed the entire network of life.
And our community. So that's going to bring us back to the new center in Hampton. Why Hampton? Why? How many centers do you have in the country? And then why did you pick Hampton?
Well, we have about 100 centers in the United States and 500 local chapters. And Hampton, because Hampton is a great place.
I think so.
Hampton's a community that is proud about upholding diversity as a value. It has a very honorable history of standing up for social justice. And those are all values that our Buddhist community appreciates and resonates with. We've had members of our Buddhist community in the Hampton area for a long time. We have about 1,200 members of our Buddhist community in Hampton and the surrounding region. And they've lived here for decades as teachers, doctors, firefighters, police officers, architects, serving in the military. This has been their home for a long time, and they've loved living here. And we feel like the opening of this center in Hampton is just the next step in celebrating our relationship with the city that we love.
Now, I would assume that a lot of those folks came here through some sort of military connection or brought family, in other words, or transplants or from original Asian countries. But I have also heard that most of the Buddhists in the United States are converts, that a lot of people are being attracted and learning more about Buddhism. You are going to have some open sessions that people can attend to learn more. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, just to get to your first point, you're absolutely right. The SGI USA Buddhist community is the most diverse Buddhist community in the United States. It has diversity of ethnicity, diversity across the socioeconomic spectrum, and we celebrate diversity. It's something that we view as a strength and is something that helps us grow as human beings by surrounding ourselves with people of many different backgrounds, learning from their different experiences, and helping to cultivate our humanity by getting to know people who are different from ourselves and letting ourselves be known to them as well. We're going to have many opportunities for the community to learn more about us and our center if they'd like to learn more. We'll have regular introductory to Buddhism style discussions going on every week. They're kind of like Buddhism 101 sessions where you can come to learn more, ask questions in a very informal environment.
And it doesn't have to be because you want to become one. It's just also just to learn more and to understand.
Absolutely. If you just like to pop in and say hello, say, hey, I just want to introduce myself to you because you just opened up your new center. We would love to welcome you and just say hello. And you can pop in Tuesdays at 7 p.m., Fridays at 10 a.m., and Saturdays at 9 a.m. And we'd be delighted to welcome you and get to know you better. And
Danny, I apologize. We have not said where you're located. I meant to do that at the beginning, so tell people.
Yes, the new center in Hampton is located at 2078 Nickerson Boulevard. And yeah, please come by and say hello. We'll be delighted to see you.
Now, you all also have a lot of social, I don't want to say causes, social issues that you're involved in. Tell us about those as well.
Yeah, based on the Buddhist view of respect for the dignity of life and the interconnectedness of all life, our Buddhist community has actively been engaged in initiatives to help build a culture of peace. Some of those issues include working for a world free from the threat of nuclear weapons, promoting equality between women and men, promoting sustainable development practices, supporting human rights education. We are part of an international Buddhist community. SGI USA is the U.S. Part of an international SGI, Soka Gakkai International Buddhist community of some 12 million practitioners in 192 countries.
Oh, wow.
We have offices in New York and Geneva where we have staff that work with other faith groups to engage with the United Nations on these issues. And in every country, there are different activities that take place more locally. Here in the United States, we have a number of projects going on that focus primarily on awareness raising. They're informal public education initiatives to help people learn more about these topics. For example, we have a number of traveling exhibitions that focus on issues such as nuclear disarmament, the role of women as peace builders, the role of artists as peace builders on sustainable development, and the idea of victory over violence. These are all exhibits that our local chapter can work on bringing to the community to be a part of public events or other activities that are going on where they would be able to add value.
I know in Hampton, one of the issues we've been facing is with youth violence and young people angry and not fully occupied and making sure that they're channeling their lives in a positive direction. That's also something your youth has been working on.
Yeah, one of the projects that I mentioned was Victory Over Violence. That was something that was originally launched by the youth of our Buddhist community in 1999 in response to growing concerns over youth-related violence. And one of the important messages of Victory Over Violence, or VOV, is this relationship between passive violence and physical violence. All of us know what physical violence is. It's easy to recognize because it hurts when it happens.
Right.
But passive violence is a little bit more subtle. Passive violence is bullying. It's verbal abuse. It's emotional abuse. Passive violence is also oppression. Passive violence is also apathy, choosing to step back and do nothing when you see acts of violence in the environment. Gandhi actually had a theory on the relationship between passive violence and physical violence. He said that passive violence is the fuel that feeds the fire of physical violence. And so if you want to put out the fire of physical violence, logically you have to cut off the fuel supply of passive violence. And that's a message that we hope to get out there through VOV, so people can be more conscious of this relationship. And in fact, most of us commit little acts of passive violence often without even being aware of it. And the idea is not to be judgmental or to make people feel guilty about that. It's to encourage people to be more mindful of the little things that we might be doing in our lives that are actually passively violent. And if we can be more mindful of those things and make better decisions about how we engage with people, we can be protagonists in helping to build a culture of peace within our families, within our circle of friends, in our city and community. And I believe that through that process can create a ripple effect that affects our larger country and how we think about violence. Important
issues. Well, if folks, I know this is just a taste of your beliefs and what you will offer at the center. Where can people go to find more information, or tell us again those open hours when they can stop by?
You can learn more about the SGI USA Buddhist community by going to our website at www.sgi-usa.org. You can also stop by the center here in Hampton whenever you like. We'll have sessions going on that are particularly catered to the public and in kind of questions that they might have on Tuesday evenings at 7 p.m., on Friday at 10 a.m., and Saturday at 9 a.m.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming by.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. And thank you for watching. I hope you've learned a little bit more about the SGI Buddhism and what they're going to bring to our locality and how they're going to feed in with the other diversity of people and religions and belief systems to understand each other better. Thanks for watching.